Okay. Oh, can you hear me? Okay, good. It's 5:30, and we will call the meeting to order. Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Tate,
Here.
Councilmember Carrillo,
Present.
Councilmember Stowe, Vice Mayor Flores,
Present.
Mayor Reyes.
Present. Thank you. Now's the time for oral communications. This is the opportunity to address the city council on any matter scheduled for closed session. Unless additional time is authorized by the council, all commentary shall be limited to 3 minutes. There's no one in the chambers. Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to comment?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, seeing none, we can move on to the closed session items.
Okay, thank you. So this evening, we have closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, Conference with Rural Property Negotiators, property various rights of way throughout the city of Porterville to be determined. Agency Negotiator John Lawless, negotiating parties, City of Porterville and AT&T, under negotiations, terms, and price. Number 2, Government Code Section 54956.6, Conference with Labor Negotiator, Agency Negotiator John Lawless and Patrice Hildreth. Employee organizations, Porterville Peace Officers Association, Public Safety Support Unit, Porterville City Firefighters Association, Fire Officers Series, Porterville City Employees Association, Management and Confidential Series, and all unrepresented management employees. Number 3, Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D, subsection 1, Conference with Legal Counsel, Existing Litigation, Statewide Traffic Safety and Signs Incorporated versus California Professional Engineering et al., and related cross complaints to Larry County Superior Court Case number 284137. Number 4, Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D, subsection 3, Conference with Legal Counsel, Anticipated Litigation, Significant Exposure to Litigation, 9 cases in which facts are not yet known to potential plaintiffs. And lastly, number 5, Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D, subsection 4, Conference with Legal Counsel, Anticipated Litigation, Initiation of Litigation, 1 case.
Okay, thank you. And we will move into closed session and reconvene at 6:30 p.m. Okay, we will reconvene from closed session, and there is nothing to report. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Mayor Flores, and remain standing for an invocation.
Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there anyone who'd like to come forward and give an invocation?
Father in heaven, we're so thankful for this wonderful, beautiful day. We pray, Father, that you'll be here with us tonight as the City Council makes decisions on different items on the agenda. We pray they'll do so with the citizens of Porterville that put them in office in mind of what they might want. We ask, Father, that you'll bless the firefighters that are fighting fires all over California. Please keep them safe, Father, and bring them home to their families. We ask that you bless all of the first responders, especially the ones in Porterville. Be with them, Father, and protect them every day as they go to work, that they come home safely to their families. We love thee, Father in heaven, and we're so thankful for all the blessings you give us every day. And we pray, Father, that you'll continue to bless the city of Porterville and its citizens. Be with us and protect us. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. Now is the time for oral communications. This is the opportunity to address the council on any matter of interest, whether on the agenda or not. Please address all items not scheduled for public hearing at this time. Unless additional time is authorized by the council, all commentary shall be limited to 3 minutes. And if you come forward, please state your name and address for the record.
Radine Strawn, 54 West Danner Avenue, Porterville, California. Good evening, City Council. Last year, the Porterville Patriots and others organized a car parade on Veterans Day down Main Street. We stopped at Stafford's Chocolate to observe 2 minutes of silence at 11:11 a.m. to honor our veterans. It was the first time in my 75 years that the traditional parade was canceled. The first time. I think it was canceled once in World War II, but that was before my time. I'm asking the City Council to please approve this year's parade. This parade unites Porterville citizens as we come together to remember all of our veterans. This tradition must continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward?
I gotta move this a little bit more. Brian Adams, 369 North Cottage, beautiful downtown Porterville. I am a member of Post 20, American Legion. I am the second vice and a historian. I'm here to help amplify that we need to do the parade this year. We did one last year, and it was all virtual. I don't know if anybody got to see it. It was on public TV and Channel 24. We need a live parade this year. We've lost some of our key players over the last couple of years. Ed Flory has been doing the parade probably since the inception. He was a member of Post 20 for over 75 years and a World War II veteran, a veteran of the Battle of the Bulge. I'm a 24-year veteran. My father was a 20-year veteran. My brother was in for 4 years. The American Legion is the one that puts on the parade, and it's for the people of Porterville, put on by veterans for the community. And we would like to make sure that we do it again this year. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward?
Good evening. My name's Brent Whitney. My address is 2001 West Orange Avenue here in Porterville. I've been a member of the Porterville community for a year now. We just moved here from Bakersfield to accept a pastoral calling at Living Word Fellowship Church. We are really enjoying the Porterville community. We have found the city to be family-friendly and nurturing of its children and youth. I have my son Aaron with me this evening. He's a sophomore at the Porterville Military Academy and loves attending his school. I'm here this evening to ask the City Council for some help in addressing an inappropriate billboard near my son's school. The billboard is on the east side of Highway 65 overlooking the north end of the school property. The billboard is advertising free testing for sexually transmitted diseases and features two young men naked from the waist up in a sexually suggestive pose. I contacted the company sponsoring the billboard. It is a nonprofit organization in Visalia called The Source LGBTQ+ Center. I had a very cordial conversation with the executive director, Brian Poth. He did not deny that the image was meant to portray a sexual relationship because that is their target audience. In fact, he confided that he was in favor of a more discreet image, but that he was outvoted by his executive committee. He seemed sympathetic to my concerns, especially because the billboard was so close to a school campus. However, he said that the ad agency chose the location. He was not willing to have the ad removed or replaced. So I contacted the Lamar Advertising Company based out of Louisiana and spoke with Hal Kilshaw, the executive vice president. He explained that their written policy was that ad copy should be in keeping with the local standards of the community. He did ask the general manager for our region to keep sexually suggestive content and alcohol advertising off of that particular billboard in the future. However, he too was unwilling to replace or remove the advertisement. So the onus was placed on us, the community, to determine what the standards are for our community according to their advertising policy. So I'm asking the City Council, as duly elected representatives of the City of Porterville, to sign letters affirming that sexually graphic advertising for any purpose is not appropriate for the billboards in our community. They aren't going to listen to one man's opinion. We have to speak with a unified voice. These letters will not cast any aspersions on the source or make any kind of statement about the LGBTQ+ community. We are simply saying to Lamar Advertising and any of their clients that the citizens of Porterville prefer not to have any sexually explicit, suggestive, or graphic content posted on billboards in our city because we have no way to filter this content from our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward?
Can I hand this in? Hello, my name is Maria Marrero, and my address is 13857 Road 284, Porterville, California. I present before you just a chronological date order on how we started the RFP process with cannabis business for the cannabis business operating permit for retail dispensary. January 24th, the RFP was released. It gave background of its adoption and summary of what would be expected from the applicants. Such on page 3, it read, applications and related forms may be inspected and electronically downloaded with no cost. All addendums and correspondence during the application process will be handled electronically through the public purchase website. In bold, it stated, no proposal shall be received from any applicant who has not registered as a plan holder on the public purchase website. February 7th, the written questions for the application were due. February 28th, submit the final application along with the fee, $750 by 4 p.m. And it closed. March 3rd, the city reopened the public purchase website to allow 2 additional applicants who failed to register on the public purchase website as stated on the RFP. March 13th, staff reviewed the application. April 3rd, the proposed completed correct applications along with 7,500 fees due. The city then turned it over to completed proposals to the third party for review. September 11th of 2020, emails were sent out of all the applicants that passed. October 22nd, 2020, blind interviews of the 6 passing applicants. November 3rd, 2020, review of the cannabis business permit application score, in which Bloom Farms obtained a score of 83.5. November 9th of 2020, the committee met and deliberated on allowing any additional wholly locally owned dispensary. December 15th, allowance for an additional wholly local is defined in Section 3. Defining wholly local was TREDC and Bloom. January 22nd of 2021, the City Council Ad Hoc Committee met to review and discuss the selection criteria and recommend to the council. The committee members recommended that the selection process be limited to the 2 candidates, TREDC and Bloom, who during the initial RFP process submitted proposals for wholly locally owned operated dispensaries and subject to review by the third-party reviewer, subsequently qualified the interview of the council. This would save the city staff time and resources. Along with that, as February 2nd, the same thing, it was still mentioned, February 16th, ordinances 1879 and 1880 were passed, approved, and adopted that oversaw the RFP. The first 2 applicants were given their approval based on them being the highest scoring on the RFP. Yet today, we as Bloom Farms, wholly local, stand before you with no response from the city. When can we expect a response? It has been a year and 10 months, and we met our due dates. We just want an answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward? Sure. Okay, so there's no one in the council chambers who wanted to come forward. Is there anyone on Zoom who is wanting to speak during oral communications?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. So that concludes oral communications. We'll move on to the AB 1234 reports. This is the time for all AB 1234 reports required pursuant to Government Code 53232.3. Up first is the Tulare County Task Force on Homelessness.
Thank you very much. We met on September the 15th. Virtually was Claudia Calderon and I from the city, and I believe Mr. Lawless and Mr. Ridenauer were on the Facebook Live video. The minutes of August the 18th, 2021 were approved. This was a lengthy meeting, so I will be providing brief highlights. Noah Whitaker provided updates to Project Roomkey, including an update on the vaccination efforts among residents without housing. There were 3 presentations. The first one was from Stephanie McDonald of Adventist Health, and it was about meeting the needs of patients who are experiencing homelessness. This presentation was the focus with intake and release of homeless patients, the legal, the mental, prescription release, and the housing of patients. The next one was from Guy Graham of Interstate Marketing Services to provide information about manufactured units and services for housing. This was a PowerPoint slide presentation and an overview of manufactured units, what they do with the units to provide housing in the efforts to accommodate the homeless as a venues for cities. Cost determinations were led to discussions, the used versus the new units, then that the used were ready to be used and installed, but the new would have to be built and would take longer. The other presentation was Angela Bruce of Rural Housing Resource Collaborative with the information about the end of eviction moratorium. Updates from the cities. Claudia Calderon provided the report for Porterville. The Welcome Center, since its opening, has assisted approximately 1,621 unduplicated clients. The daily average is 45 to 60 meals per day. The Link event services continue. The next one would be, which was on September the 22nd. Health and Human Services are there every Wednesday. After her report, I chimed in at the end and shared that the city of Porterville vaccination efforts. Tulare and Visalia provided brief status information. I want to stress that the presentations were lengthy and informative. I encourage you to go to the website or view the Facebook video, Tulare County Health and Human Services, Tulare County Task Force on Homelessness. That concludes the report. The next meeting is October the 20th.
Thank you. Any questions? If not, the next report is for the Tulare County Association of Governments, Tulare County Transportation Authority.
Thank you very much. I'm also going to provide highlights on this meeting. We met on September the 20th. It was a lengthy meeting, reporting out that there were several adoption of resolutions, reaffirmation of programs. There was a presentation and information provided on the California Department of Public Health Kids Plates grant for childhood unintentional injury and illness prevention. I'm going to put an emphasis that there is an item that was brought forth as informational. I bring attention to this item because it is one that will be brought to council in a future meeting. It has to do with 2022 Regional Transportation Plan Sustainable Community Strategy Update. The following is from the TCAG staff report. The RTP plan is a 20-year planning document that TCAG updates at least once every 4 years. The RTP is the highest level and most comprehensive planning document prepared by TCAG, the Tulare County Association of Governments. It will outline transportation improvements and other related planning elements through the year 2047. Planned transportation improvements must be financially constrained based on funding estimates, and performance measures should be defined. There was nothing to report from Caltrans for this area. The minutes, I will state, for the August 16th, 2021 TCAG board meeting were approved, and the minutes of August 12, 2021 Technical Advisory Committee meeting were approved. That pretty much concludes the report. The next meeting is Monday, October the 18th, 2021.
Thank you. Any questions? If not, let's see. Report number 3 for the Tulare County Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Lawless attended that meeting, so we'll go ahead and move that to the next meeting for a report, which brings us to number 4, which is a Local Initiatives Navigation Center Committee Services event from September 22nd. Do we have a report, or sometimes the services don't require a report? So, okay. That's okay. And so the next item is the California League of Cities Annual Conference in Sacramento, which after discussion, the council had opted to stay in town and review the materials remotely, which were supplied from this conference as well as previous conferences, so that there was some way to have some relationship to previous conferences as well. Staff did not attend as well, so there's no report there. Number 6 is the Tulare County Regional Transit Agency, the meeting from September 27th. 3 action items at that meeting. The first 2 were similar in that there was an action to approve a Measure R cooperative agreement with the Tulare County Association of Governments. This is for funding that expands transit services throughout the cities that are participating in the Regional Transit Agency, with the exception of Exeter and Farmersville, who This funding extends to their relationship with the city of Visalia regarding transit. So the money, again, is for expansion of transit services, which, as we know, the Regional Transit Agency will be taking over transit operations within the county. So this money was, the action was taken to appropriate this money for the Regional Transit Agency, as well as a small amount that was also proposed, or actually earmarked for transit center upgrades in Farmersville and buses within the county. So that funding was voted, we took action to create that cooperative agreement. As well, there were some supplemental funds that were also available for, I believe it was Dinuba and Tulare, for some routes that, that they already have that were expanded for special purposes. So that money was also brought in. When that was the amount of $287,500. So all of this money, again, goes to help generate funding to keep the Regional Transit Agency operational. And the third action was to, and we will find it later in our agenda, recommend to purchase electric shuttle vans for the State of Good Repair project. There were two proposals, and the recommendation was to recommend to the Porterville City Council, who has the proper account. I know it's a federal account that allows us to purchase these in a specific manner. I forget the name of the acronym that goes with it, but it's in our agenda, and the recommendation was to, through the transit agency, recommend the Green Power Motor Company shuttles be purchased. The cost of $298,235.72, and ask us to do that on the behalf of the transit agency. So those are the items I have for that meeting. Are there any questions? Okay. The next meeting to report out on is the Internal City Audit Committee meeting of September 28th.
Thank you very much. We met on September the 28th. The members in attendance were Rob Taylor, Julie Liu, John Lawless, Maria Bemis, Councilmember Carrillo, and I. From the Chamber Board in attendance was Dr. Anthony Martin and Interim Porterville CEO, Ms. Christina Clausen. I always want to say thank you to the members of the public who attend in person and virtually. Under the scheduled matters, the approval of the draft minutes of August the 31st were unanimously approved by the members present. The continued review of the agreement between the city and the Chamber of Commerce, the discussion of potential amendments of the agreement. One was the clarification was made with regard to the fiscal year dates. The city and the chamber have different fiscal years. It was proposed that the agreement begin July 1st, 2022. Under the chamber responsibilities, a paragraph was added regarding coordinating with the city. Under city responsibilities, the paragraph regarding the dollar amount stipend would be reworded to coincide with the fiscal year. The dollar amount was left blank of the stipend. There was a healthy dialogue which was brought to the table that this item is a discussion for full council. Continuing on the subtitle, a brief discussion to an item paragraph, which I will call it number 3, regarding city representative to meet with chamber designee would be reworded and changed, and city manager and chamber CEO or chair. That was sort of the requested change. These changes would be made accordingly, and this tentative document will be presented to the full council for discussion at the meeting of October the 19th. Other matters, the discussion of the next items for the agenda to begin the discussion on pension obligations, OPEBs, and to bring a comprehensive list of the agreements that the city of Porterville has with agencies and organizations, to review the list and select the next agreement to be brought to the committee for review, revisions, if any, to be brought to the full council. Our next meeting is scheduled for November the 3rd at 4 o'clock. That concludes my report, unless Councilmember Carrillo would like to add to it, or legal counsel may chime in case I've left something off.
It was comprehensive. I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
All right. The next meeting to report out on is the Porterville Area Development Authority, meeting of October 1st. This was the first meeting of this newly established JPA between the Tule River Tribe and the city of Porterville regarding the airport development area. I have to say that this is a new and somewhat novel way to operate, but also signifies great cooperation between the two bodies. Getting right into business, we were able to, and you'll see this later on our agenda during the COVID item, I believe, is Assembly Bill 361 has changed the way that the Brown Act has, the waivers for the Brown Act, allowing for remote participation in meetings. So there was an immediate need to take action to allow those who are participating remotely to be part of the meeting, which we took action to adopt that, as well as complying with the Brown Act as the way to operate. But probably the most pressing matter due to being able to keep with project scheduling and completion of the tertiary treatment plant was to observe and select the bid for the tertiary treatment plant. The lowest qualified bid was chosen, and there is of course, a 10% contingency for labor and materials. Clark Brothers was chosen for that project at $12,049,600, but the 10% contingency there, so this should not exceed $12,254,560. So that was the major action that was taken. We are still, as a new formation, there are some documents that we are still finalizing between legal counsel, but as an act of formality and to keep the meeting working as we recognize the meeting to work, we assigned an acting chairman and an acting secretary. The finance director will be our treasurer, and I was selected as the chairman, and Raylene Clower from the tribe side was selected as a secretary. And Councilmember Stowe is also a member of this JPA, and I didn't know if he had something he wanted to add.
As Your Honor mentioned, it was our first inaugural meeting. Things that we did add, we were going to have our official meetings on the second Fridays of the month at 3 p.m. So if any of you would like to come out and listen and be part of the program, you may do so in the audience. And it's ran just like the council meeting, and everything's out and open and very clear to what's going to happen. And we make our payments, and we go over each one of those payments for the casino at that time, and we pass or reject those. Some of the things that we discussed was road construction during that period of time, and talked about the roundabout at Westwood, the improvements of signalization out there, so we can have lights and make sure there's no accidents, and which roads that we may widen and which we may not widen. And I know Mr. Knight will probably be more of a resource than that, but other than that, and one other thing, that the tribal council will host a topping off ceremony on October 28th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., and it's open to the public, and expect about 300 people, and there will be invitations to all the council members at some point coming in. And that's what I have.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you. The next meeting is the City Council Cannabis Ad Hoc Committee meeting of October 4th. Myself and Councilmember Tate were part of that meeting. The meeting was, and as was our previous meeting, to review the process that had been undertaken during the first selection of the two licenses that had been previously approved. With this meeting came a review of what the criteria involved in the selection for that was, as well as an update on the near completion of those two licenses and their initiation of their projects and permits. There's also discussion of the development of the process for the second, or the third, proposed third license or second round of decision-making in the realm of cannabis licensing in Porterville. And in the future, we'll have an update for council, hoping within the month of November at some time. And I didn't know if staff or Councilmember Tate had anything they wanted to add.
Great job covering it, thank you.
Okay. And it looks like that concludes the reports, although there, I'll put it on the next meeting, but there was a Truly River Improvement Joint Powers Authority meeting that happened yesterday, but I'll just move that to the next meeting so that we can expedite the rest of the business. I do see there are some staff reports that were in your packet. If there's any questions about those, now's the time to ask, but it looks like the cleanup event.
Right, we have one staff informational report included in the packet, and that is just a reminder that, as you know, the city holds 2 cleanup events throughout the year, one in the spring and one in the fall. Our fall event is coming up on the 16th of October, and that is available. It will go from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., and it's open to all residents receiving city residential refuse service, and the cost for that event is funded through our solid waste operating budget. So just a reminder, cleanup days upcoming.
Yeah, those events very helpful for the residents of Porterville and getting rid of some of the things that they no longer need. That brings us to the consent calendar. All consent calendar items are considered routine and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these matters unless a request is made, in which event an item will be removed from the consent calendar. All items removed from the consent calendar for further discussion will be heard at the end of scheduled matters. Council, how would you like to proceed?
Mayor, if there are no items to be pulled or no noted conflicts, I make the recommendations that we approve items 1 through 10 of the consent calendar.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by the Vice Mayor, second by Councilmember Tate. We'll go ahead and call for the vote. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next order of business is a public hearing.
Yes, Your Honor, we have one public hearing before you this evening, and that is the Butterfield Stage Corridor Mitigated Negative Declaration Public Hearing Continuation, and Mr. Ridenauer will present staff's report.
Thank you, Ms. Hildreth. Honorable Mayor and City Council, the city is proposing the development of a non-motorized transportation facility known as the Butterfield Stage Corridor to provide safe, improved access to education, retail opportunities, job centers, housing, and the transit center. The Butterfield Stage Corridor will utilize approximately 9 miles of city-owned former Union Pacific Railroad right-of-way between Teapot Dome Avenue to the south and Avenue 196 and Strathmore to the north. The project will consist of a Class 1 12-foot paved non-motorized multi-use path that within city limits will include amenities such as solar lighting, drought-tolerant landscaping, drinking water stations, refuse receptacles, benches, wayfinding and controlled lighted crossings. Portions of the path that are outside the city limits will include the following amenities: solar lighting, drought-tolerant landscaping, and trash receptacles. The path will meander through the width of the right-of-way in a manner best suited to avoid irregularities of grade and provide space for amenities. The project will facilitate the achievement of General Plan Implementation Policy PSCFI-14 to develop a safe and efficient trail network throughout the city that links parks and other key city destinations. The City Council opened the public hearing for consideration of the mitigated negative declaration for the project on August 17, 2021. The public hearing was continued to the meeting of tonight, October 5th, 2021, to provide adequate time to address a comment letter received by the San Joaquin Valley Unified Air Pollution Control District during the comment period. After consultation with SJV APCD, a new letter was received on August 23rd of 2021. The comment letter provided by the Air District, as well as responses to each of the comments, are attached for reference. The comments provided did not result in changes to the initial study or the mitigated negative declaration, No comments received identified a new unavoidable significant effect, nor did they result in a finding that the proposed mitigation measures in the mitigated neg declaration will not produce potential effects to less than significant. Accordingly, pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA guidelines, Code Section 15073.5, recirculation of the initial study and mitigated neg deck is not required. Staff's recommendation that the City Council adopt the draft resolution approving the mitigated negative declaration of environmental impact and direct staff to carry out the development of the Butterfield Stage Corridor. Staff is available for questions.
Are there any questions for staff before we open the public hearing? No, so public hearing open at 7:23. Is there anyone who would like to come forward to speak on the Butterfield Stage Corridor Mitigated Negative Declaration public hearing continuation? Is there anyone on Zoom with their hand raised?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so at 7:23, we will close the public hearing and bring it back to council.
Mayor,
Yes.
I don't have any comments. I'm just going to go right to it and make the recommendation that the City Council adopt the draft resolution approving the mitigated negative declaration of environmental impact, and that we direct staff to carry out the development of the Butterfield Stage Corridor project.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Okay, a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and call for the vote. Passes 5-0. Thank you. That brings us to scheduled matters.
Thank you, Your Honor. This shall be the first of 6 scheduled items, scheduled matters before you this evening. This is the approval for a community civic event, Veterans Homecoming Committee, submitted for the Veterans Day Parade. And in consideration of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have added an additional step in the routing of community civic events. And in this particular case, it also routed to the COVID Ad Hoc Committee. So as you know, the Porterville Veterans Day Parade is the longest running in the country. And they have again submitted a request to hold the Veterans Day Parade on November 11th. It has routed and received comments from all of the departments. The ad hoc committee, it was presented to them, and they reviewed it and actually had a recommendation of approval with certain conditions. And those conditions include they recommended extending the parade route to Orange Avenue to allow for better social distancing among the parade observers. Additionally, a recommendation included multiple announcing areas along the parade route, again, to promote social distancing so that people are not congregating in one particular area. Also, the provision of a live streaming option to allow individuals to also view the parade virtually instead of in person, should they choose to do so. Also, signage to encourage parade observers to maintain social distancing during the event. And then also a concurrent scheduling of a vaccination incentive clinic in coordination with that event, which the city could assist in that regard. So it was determined that the ad hoc committee would recommend approval with those conditions. And in speaking with the applicant, they were amenable to all of those conditions. They felt as though that was appropriate. And I believe there's somebody in the audience from there if they have any additional comments. So with that, The staff's recommendation is that the City Council consider the Veterans Day Homecoming Committee's application to hold the Veterans Day Parade on November 11th with the stated conditions.
Okay, thank you. And if there's an applicant present, if they wanted to come forward and add any additional information, you're welcome to do so at this time.
The only thing that I would like to add is that the American Legion Post 20, the Homecoming Committee, and the Memorial District will do anything that we need to do to make sure that this parade happens. And we want to make sure that we maintain the best parades that Porterville has seen over the years, and that's why Porterville has been called Patriotic Porterville. Thank you.
Thank you. And so at this time, we'll bring it to council. And council, if there's any additional questions for staff, now's the time, or otherwise action or discussion. Councilmember Carrillo?
If there's no discussion, I will make a motion. I'll make the motion to approve the Veterans Homecoming application and hold the Veterans Day Parade on November 11th, 2021.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mayor, I'm going to go ahead and second, but I want to make just a comment. And I want to thank Mr. Adams and the members of the public for their participation in bringing it to the table. And I want to say thank you for the willingness to make this an outstanding parade once again. It is appreciated. And with that's my only comment. And
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
correct.
So the only discussion I would add is that if there's I would like to volunteer if there's any shortage of equipment for an additional announcing station, that I have equipment available. So should you find yourself or any of the participants who would be at those stations short of equipment, I would be glad to lend my equipment to the effort. So is there any further discussion?
The only thing that I would recommend, based on some of the events I've attended during this pandemic, is that we encourage people to wear face masks and that the city provide them for those who might need them.
And we can make those available, yes.
Councilmember Stowe, any comment? No. Okay. So we will go ahead and call for the vote. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Thank you. Next item, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. The next item before you is the City of Porterville Veterans Day Run and Walk, and Mr. Moore will present this item.
Thank you, Ms. Hildreth, Honorable Mayor, and members of the council. A longstanding tradition of the city's Parks and Leisure Services Department has been to host the annual Veterans Day Run and Walk prior to the annual Veterans Day Parade. The event is open to all ages and ability levels, with participants typically ranging in age from babies and strollers all the way up to 90-year-olds plus. Medals are awarded to the top 3 finishers in each age division of the 5K run, 5K walk, and 10K run. An honorary veteran shoots the starter's gun to signify the start of the race, which starts at 7:30 a.m. The location of the start-finish line is on Main Street in front of City Hall. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the 2020 Veterans Day Run and Walk transitioned to a virtual format. Participants were given a 1-week window to complete their race, which was tracked on an app. City staff believes that given the outdoor nature of the event, combined with how the participants distance themselves from each other during the course of the race, that a safe event can be administered. Staff is planning on offering a virtual option once again this year for those wishing to participate from out of town or those local participants that would prefer the virtual alternative. The event will be subject to change to an all-virtual format if determined necessary to do so. The Veterans Day Run and Walk would adhere to all current COVID-19 safety guidelines. The internal community civic event form has been routed to all city staff. Staff's recommendation that the City Council provide direction on the scheduling of the City of Porterville Veterans Day Run and Walk. That concludes staff's report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Are there any questions for staff? Okay, if not, we'll bring it back to council. Do we have any discussion or a motion?
I'm going to make the motion that we authorize the Veterans Day run and walk with the safety precautions, and that is proposed.
Mayor, can I make, I want a second, but I want to make a comment too. So the comment is just thank you for providing an optional virtual participation, and then being subject to change if it's necessary. I mean, I think hopefully a month out we'll be out of this severe air quality, but also the pandemic. So those are my two comments. With that, I second the motion.
All right, is there any further discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. Okay, passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. The next item before you is the consideration of amendment to sphere of influence request, and Mr. Ridenhour will present staff's report.
Thank you, Ms. Hildreth. Honorable Mayor and City Council, at its meeting on October 20th, 2020, the City Council adopted the following three resolutions. Resolution 86, 2020, approving a mitigated negative declaration for the Citrus Blossom subdivision project. Resolution 87-2020, requesting that LAFCO, also known as the Local Agency Formation Commission of Tulare County, approve an annexation and modify the Porterville Sphere of Influence, also known as SOI. And Resolution 88-2020, approving the Citrus Blossom tentative subdivision map. Furthermore, Ordinance 1877, a rezone of APN 243-130-042 from RS1, very low density residential, to RS2, low density residential, was approved on November the 3rd, 2020, with the first reading taking place at the regular scheduled meeting on October 20th, 2020, and second reading taking place on November 3rd, 2020. The request for annexation and amendment to the Porterville SOI was considered by LAFCO at its meeting on July 7th, 2021. The LAFCO Commission denied the request for annexation, LAFCO case number 1560-P-323, and continued the request for amendment to the Porterville Sphere of Influence, LAFCO case 1560-P-32A, referring the item back to LAFCO staff and the City of Porterville for further study and consideration of including 4 additional parcels to the west of the requested amendment to the Porterville SOI. 4 additional parcels is approximately 7.6 acre increase to the requested amendment to include APNs 243-130-038, 243-130-039, 243-130-040, as well as 243-130-041. The applicant subsequently submitted a request for reconsideration, which went before LAFCO at its meeting on September the 1st, 2021, which was also denied. The mitigated negative declaration adopted by Resolution 87, 2020 did not evaluate the addition of the 4 additional parcels to the Porterville SOI, as had been requested by LAFCO at its meeting on July 7th, 2021. Staff requested that Crawford & Bowen Planning Incorporated, the environmental consulting firm that wrote the original environmental document, provide an estimated cost and schedule for the appropriate mechanism to include the additional parcels that LAFCO requested to be included in the amendment to the Porterville SOI. Crawford & Bowen recommended that the most appropriate method to address the increase to the SOI amendment would be through preparing an addendum to evaluate the project based on the current environmental and regulatory setting. The addendum would supplement the existing mitigated negative declaration and evaluate the environmental impacts associated with including 4 additional parcels to the Porterville SOI pursuant to CEQA sections 15162 and 15164. The fee for the addendum would be $2,500 and would be available to the city staff review 3 weeks after authorization is given to the consultant. The mitigated negative declaration that was adopted with Resolution 86-2020 was funded by the Citrus Blossom Project applicant. The contract for the addenda would need to be funded by the City of Porterville. It is outside the mitigated negative declaration that was adopted by Resolution 86-2020. The city is not required to pursue the requested modification to the Porterville SOI. The Porterville SOI amendment request, as adopted by Resolution 87-2020, also included a request for annexation to allow for the Citrus Blossom Project to move forward to develop the housing within the standards of the City of Porterville Development Ordinance, including the utilization of City of Porterville utilities. The annexation was denied by LAFCO on July 7, 2021. Therefore, if the project is to move forward, it would move forward in the county of Tulare. Staff's recommendation is that the council provide direction on whether to engage Crawford and Boeing Planning Incorporated to prepare an addendum to evaluate the environmental impacts associated with including 4 additional parcels into the Porterville SOI pursuant to CEQA sections 15162 and 15164, and bring back a future agenda item to consider an addendum to the mitigative negative declaration and resolution requesting the additional parcels be included in the Porterville Sphere of Influence Amendment. Staff is available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ridenour. Are there any questions for staff regarding this item?
I have one, Your Honor.
Councilmember Stowe?
Mr. Ridenour, just to make this clear for me, this motion, or this item is to extend the sphere of influence in case the county has some kind of construction outside the city limits, that they will follow the the same guidelines as the city.
Correct. So within the sphere of influence and the urban development boundary, which are synonymous, per the settlement agreement, that development occurs within the SOI is to be in city standard. And so also when something is within your SOI, which is in your sphere of influence, it's within your 20-year growth pattern, it is kind of one step closer for annexation at some point. So if there's, for example, if somebody needed city water, for example, or something of that nature, and they're in the urban development boundary, they can be annexed to be able to provide that city utility.
And this is to make sure that the curb and gutters and the water hookups and things are there and for future annexation, correct?
Correct.
Are there any other questions or discussion?
Well, Councilmember Stowe asked the question already, because I had the same question with regard with the sphere of influence in county construction, that it would be city regulations, city standards, and to that regard. And I know, because I was at both the meetings where the annexation did not get approved. And I know that at the LAFCO meetings, it was stated that they would still like the city to look into the sphere of influence to see, but LAFCO is the one that requested the addition of the additional parcels to expand it. So that was a separate, there's 2 separate that we're not even going to discuss that annexation, but we're going to focus on the sphere of influence based on the information that we've been presented here, because LAFCO has requested that we have this discussion and go from there.
Well, regardless of LAFCO requested it, I think it's a good idea, because we used to have little pockets in the center of town that were county pockets, and they didn't have curb or gutter, didn't have street lighting, and then when they were annexed, that had to happen, through a city, but actually the homeowners, I think, paid for it and as they come in. But I'm not sure if we gave them a loan, a small interest loan or no interest loan in order to do that or not. But it had to be done once, well, it didn't have to be done, but it took 2 or 3 years before they got their curb and gutter and street lighting. And this way, it will be done. If when we annex it, we don't have to worry about it.
And I can appreciate that. I'm sorry, I'm going to chime in
Go
on the
ahead.
conversation because I'm going to chime in and make note that with that information and with the knowledge that a lot of people have already been annexed to be on, alongside on Newcomb, requested the additional, to be annexed because of the water situation. So in essence, when you look at the bigger picture of the additional parcels, I would have to say that we go with the SOI so that anything that is developed in that area is under the city standards and regulations and that it's to that. That's my only comment, my
Okay.
additional comment.
Councilmember Carrillo, did you have any comment? No. Okay. Councilmember Tate? No. Okay. I do agree that documentation can be very demonstrative to those who are making decisions now or in the future, so it seems like this would be an action to take from my perspective.
Now, we're just, it says here we're to provide direction.
Okay.
Okay, on whether, to provide direction, whether to engage.
Correct. And so the request this evening is you see the outline with the red shade is the resolution request that was approved prior by the city council. The parcels here that adjoin that area that make the nice angle are the 4 parcels that LAFCO has requested. As you do note, you see here, I just want to, they are fully developed sites here. There's some kind of rural home sites I would classify them as that are located there in that requested area. And so the direction tonight staff is seeking is, would you like to engage environmental consultant who wrote the environmental document to write an addendum to bring back to you to add, to consider a new resolution that adds this area to your SOI and request. So add that area to your urban development boundary, then to take that back to LAFCO. Or would you like to, you can add all the way. It's council's discretion here of what you would like to see, but the request is here. Or you could just make a determination that you would like the request to remain as it was and to include these parcels here as they're not fully developed. It's council's discretion at this.
Go ahead.
I was gonna, personally, I like to do that one and extend it out to where properties that you think we might, in the future, that developers might come in and try to develop homes or whatever. I mean, not just that section, but while we're doing it, let's make an amendment that we, extend it out to.
So Councilmember Stowe, just so I'm clear, you're looking to have the sphere of influence go all the way to the Frank Kern Canal, which is our natural boundary?
Correct. That's I mean, if we're gonna do it, let's do it now, and that way there's no question about it if they decide they want to develop, homes in that area.
And my comment's the same. I think documentation and doing it is appropriate for decision-making processes for us or anyone else later.
So we won't have to go through this process again.
Mr. Ridenour, the addition of the 4 parcels that was proposed by LAFCO, I believe you indicated that was an additional $2,500?
That's correct. And so I got an estimate or quote from the consultant for $2,500. Apologize, I don't know what the fee would be for all of them. I don't imagine that it would increase significantly. That they are still undertaking the same addendum, the similar uses in the area. So with that in mind, that number may change. I don't anticipate it to be a large change, though.
Because unlike other things, it's not so much labor or materials that are skyrocketing in other areas. This could be something that the cost could be pretty much the same as anticipated with other times we've done something like this.
Correct.
So that's just direction. Do you need an action or consensus? I suppose I should ask.
We would,
I think you're looking for a request to amend the,
Yeah, we have to.
Right.
or the addendum to allow for the engagement, right? of those-
right.
I think you're wanting action, right, Jason?
We are wanting action.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say, I make the motion that we authorize the engagement of Crawford and Boeing Planning to prepare the addendum for the evaluation of the environmental impacts, including the 4 parcels. And are we including and
And the extension up to
and the
Franklin.
extension, including the 4 parcels and the extensions duly noted here this evening into the Porterville SOI to CEQA sections numbered 15162 and 15164. Now, the question that I have, we don't have, if we make this decision right now, we don't have to bring it back on a future agenda item? Or do we, it's still going to come back?
We have to have a public.
The
hearing.
item will still have to come back because we will have to have the addendum. The council will need to consider the adoption of the addendum
Thank
to the
you.
mitigated neg
And
deck
it-
and adopt a
Thank you.
resolution
That my
pursuant.
motion continues that it will be brought back to a future item to consider the mitigated negative declaration and resolution, requesting the additional parcels to be included in the SOI. That is the motion.
And when, just for clarification, when you reference the additional parcels, you're talking about all the way to the Bryant-Kern Canal?
Correct.
Yes.
national
Okay,
boundary.
thank you.
Yes.
Or at least, that's what my.
Yeah, well, that's where I was,
Okay.
I was going in that direction.
And I will second that.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. That was fast, 5-0, passes, thank you. Next item, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. The next item is the consideration of Measure R Citizens Oversight Committee Representative. In 2006, the voters of Tulare County approved Measure R, which is a half-cent sales tax for transportation within the incorporated.
Can I stop you? I'll make a motion that we
Thank you.
continue, have
The reappointment of Ms.
reappointment.
Capone.
Yes.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Okay.
So that will be to a 2-year term set to expire June 30th, 2023.
Okay, and this is, just to clarify, this is the reappointment of somebody.
This is the reappointment of Ms. Kathy Capone, who has served in that capacity, representing the city on that county oversight committee since November 2018.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I think.
Yeah.
that was-
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and call for the vote. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item.
Thank you, Your Honor. The next item is the consideration of support for a letter in support of the completion of State Route 99 in the San Joaquin Valley. TCAG, the Tulare County Association of Governments, in conjunction with Madera and Merced Regional Transportation Agencies, are seeking support from local and regional governments, businesses, and other organizations in the respective San Joaquin Valley counties in an effort to secure a commitment from the state of California to take action to complete State Route 99 and finish the project that they began in 1969. State Route 99 serves, as you know, as a critical north-south corridor for goods movement throughout California and supports the largest agricultural region in the United States. Despite recent significant investments in the corridor, State Route 99 remains unfinished, resulting in congestion and that hampers economic activity, negatively impacting air quality. The incomplete State Route 99 also presents dangerous conditions to the traveling public, oscillating between 4 and 6 lanes. Finishing State Route 99 would reduce congestion, increase economic activity, solve safety issues, as well as improve and meet state air quality and climate change goals. TCEG has provided a draft letter of support for the City Council's consideration, and with that, staff recommends that the Council consider its support with that draft letter of support for completing the widening of State Route 99 in the San Joaquin Valley.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council to staff regarding this item?
Mayor, I don't have any questions. I just want to comment that because being on TCAG and watching a lot of the things that are forthcoming, I'm just going to go with a recommendation that we support the draft letter in completing the widening of State Route 99 in the San Joaquin Valley. I make that motion.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no more discussion, we'll
Do
call.
we get
Yes.
that much traffic on 99? I'm just kidding.
We'll go ahead and call for the vote. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. And the final item this evening is the update that we provide during every council meeting, and this is the status and review of the proclamation of local emergency concerning the COVID-19 pandemic. And Julie, I'm going to call on you to talk about the AB 361 that the governor signed into law just last month, and it impacts the manner in which legislative bodies in the state, local legislative bodies, can hold council meetings and their legislative meetings. So it has to do with the virtual component. Go ahead, Julia.
Right. So in addition to extending the proclamation tonight, we are asking the council to also adopt a separate resolution that reaffirms our local emergency and ratifies the state's declaration emergency concerning the COVID-19 crisis. The reason why we're having this done is that under the new legislation, there was a requirement that those certain findings be met. So this resolution meets those threshold findings for the local agency in order to continue utilizing remote meeting options. And so that's why you have that in front of you. I will note that there are, while the governor's order, which expired at the end of the month, and this particular the legislation, which went into effect immediately, actually upon passage, there are some slight differences with regard to what's required. Most importantly, we really will have to, it really does ensure that if you are using a remote process, that remote process must keep working. If it stops working, then the meeting does need to end. And there are some additional restrictions put on ensuring that public comment is held and that the public has their opportunity. So, and so we'll make sure that the council has all, that we are following all those slightly different protocols when as we proceed utilizing this. The other thing the council should be aware of is we're asking that you adopt this resolution tonight, but we will need to adopt an extension resolution every 30 days, as long as the crisis lasts. The nice thing about this legislation is it will also help in if there are future emergencies that need to be declared or declared in the future, we can utilize these procedures again. So I think that pretty much sums it up, unless there's anything you think I forgot, Patrice, that should be mentioned.
No, I think you hit everything. So we are asking, we've added a resolution. As Julie indicated, we will be bringing that forward once a month.
Starting today.
Starting today, right. And then just to continue the update, I do have a few numbers that were provided. So this is based on Tulare County statistics with regard to COVID that was updated on October 5th. So within our zip code, we've had a reduction in active cases by 141 since the last reporting. We have administered within our county an additional 6,439 vaccinations. In terms of hospitalizations, locally here at Sierra View, they have had 5 additional confirmed cases, 0 additional suspected cases, and 0 additional individuals admitted into ICU. The PDC remains in a warm status. It's not been utilized yet during this resurgence. There has been much emphasis on the vaccination events, and as you know, the city has partnered with Sierra View Medical Center, and they're continuing the events. In fact, the roundup will be taking place October 7th through 9th. And then again, there's vaccination events planned for October 15th and October 29th in conjunction with the Music on Main Street events. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, but we are seeking action to adopt the draft resolution concerning AB 361.
Thank you for the report. Are there any questions for staff?
I have one. We have been giving out the gift cards for local restaurants. And if we want to extend that, will we have to adopt that too, or can we just continue giving it out since we already have the?
I believe we have a supply that gets us through the next several events. Julia, do you think we need to take action if we need to purchase additional?
Well, not purchase, but I'm saying if we want to include like beauty salons, barbershops. And
Oh, if you want to amend,
do we have to, if we amend that, do we have to take action on it?
it might be
I
good to
think-
get
I-
direction.
We would definitely want direction to, I don't think you need a formal action, but we would like direction if you'd like
To expand the
it's the-
scope of the businesses from which we're purchasing the gift cards.
correct.
May I comment?
Please.
That I will echo the sentiment for the expansion of the businesses as the direction. And if other council members don't have any questions, I would like to make the motion that we adopt the resolution pursuant to all the information that was set forth tonight with regard to the meeting options, and that we continue the proclamation of local emergency.
I shall second that.
And would
Okay.
you like to specify the types of businesses
Well,
you would like to
that's what I was
expand?
going to add.
Okay.
Not a second it for discussion. The council, we probably should, make some kind of decision what type of businesses and we were going to extend those to, gas stations or small stores or, local stores, grocery stores. And so I don't know if we want to do it tonight or if we can think about it and bring it back to next month. That's,
I think we could have that discussion because they've already have enough for the next event, and we can put our thought processes
For the-
on that
for the
one,
next
for the
one.
next one.
Okay.
So we have an event coming up the 7th through the 9th, and then Music on Main, I guess weather permitting and air quality permitting, would be October 15th. And then there would be one October 29th, which would be after our next council meeting. So we could, I think we might have enough for those events, or you could give direction to expand it to salons. I believe grocery stores are already being utilized, gas stations.
And
our local
Other-
mom and pops
other-
places. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really important.
I agree. I think initially I had made the suggestion that we include salons and barbershops, but there was, I think there was a question of the coordination because there's a very heavy accounting process that takes place. And so coordinating that with the purchasers was something that needed to happen before we expanded it. So it's great that we're talking about expansion, and I agree with Councilmember Stowe. These are locally based businesses, so
Okay.
if I would encourage that if we do reach to petroleum or gasoline products, that we look at the ownership of the station or
Yeah.
facility to keeping with the same theme of those who have been impacted by locally impacted by mandated actions in the past, that we are able to put that directly back as locally as possible.
Okay.
And I would add too that if there may be some, because groceries, restaurants are easy to spend the quantity we were giving out. So if there are some participating or businesses that would fit into that local category, but seems maybe a little difficult to place a $100 gift certificate that we consider putting two together, whether it's a
Okay,
movie
right.
theater and a
So $50 from this
something like
small, right.
create
okay.
an option for some that may be harder to spend $100, because as we don't want to place any undue burden on the business to do accounting for one item at a time if they don't ordinarily participate in a gift card program of their own. So it may be easier to limit the money by still having them participate. But that's something to consider. So
Sure.
maybe just my opinion, if staff wanted to bring something
No,
back with lists.
That's a good idea, because, you know, they can go in those stores and spend $3, $2, but we can make it a minimum purchase of $25 or something, so it won't be so tough on the owner, on the business owner, you know, because, you know, marking down $2 and keeping track of that is, but at $25, you know, you can do that 4 times pretty easily.
And I think it's worth pointing out that we've done this, and it may have been done before, but I was watching, I think it was the mayor of New York, touting this program where they were doing this with barbers like it was the greatest thing that he had invented, or they had invented since sliced bread. But I was thinking we've been doing this, so I'm really glad that we had initiated this program, and glad we're talking about expansion to other businesses.
Great, okay. I have direction, thank you.
So
There was a motion and a
a
second.
motion and a second. So unless there's any more discussion, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. Passes 5-0. Thank you. That brings us to oral communications. As stated before, this is a time to come forward. You will have 3 minutes to address the council. Is there anyone who would like to come forward? I don't see anyone in the chambers. Is there anyone? Oh, please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Patrick Nanamura, 1869 West Heritage Lane. And we were supposed to, I'm representing the Porterville Angels Baseball Club, and we were on the agenda for tonight.
It passed.
Oh,
Yeah, it was on the consent calendar.
oh, okay. I guess my question is, where do we go from here? Just talk to Donnie and that takes care of it? All right, well, thank you, guys.
I was wondering what you were doing back there. I'm like, what is he here for?
I'll try to get the last word in. I just got a text from my commander, and he is ecstatic. And thanks you very much for approving the parade, and we plan to do the best job we can to get this parade done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was wondering, what is the best way to follow up on the request letter? Should I contact council members by email? That'd be the best way. I know you need time to read the actual letters before.
It may be best to contact the city manager's office. It more than likely will come as a letter from probably myself or something to that effect. But as we review what you've submitted, you can follow up and check with the city manager's office.
Okay. Well, Your Honor, doing other matters, I want to make, a comment about that if I can, and maybe that might help him with this question.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
sure. Sorry, I could see it was hard to see who was talking. I was sorry.
No,
I-
he's looking around like,
I know. I feel like
I forgot, you can't see our mouths
I
moving.
forgot. I felt like a ventriloquist.
I'm sorry. I forgot we had this mask on.
Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward? Is there anyone on Zoom?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to other matters. Councilmember Carrillo, did you have any other matters?
I would just like to acknowledge continued work from the agencies and the firefighters and all the first responders that are working on the nearby fire. You know, it's unfortunate that this is going on in our community, but it is pretty heartwarming to see all the agencies here. And I did drive out by the fairgrounds where they're all camped out and saw all the helicopters and all the water machines and all the fire agencies and, you know, federal and state and local. So there is a lot of people working hard for our community. I just wanted to acknowledge them. I also wanted to acknowledge the American Legion for being here and your request and the ability to and willingness to you know, follow the accommodations that the ad hoc committee had recommended. So looking forward to a safe event. I think the community is going to be very pleased. I know even my elderly mother brought it up that that's the oldest parade that we have here in the community, and it's really important to our city and, you know, even the veterans on the reservation. So she mentioned that to me too. You know, so just taking into all the consideration of the comments and things that we've heard over several weeks from the community. So with that, I think that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Stowe?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I too I'm happy to see that our parade is back, and want to thank you all for voting in that direction. But also, in another sadder note, express my condolences to the Williams family of the passing of Frank Williams, who was from, you know, the tribal. I don't think he was ever on the council, but he's from the tribe, and he did a lot of great things, and, you know, helped with youth sports here in town throughout the years. And we also probably need to remember John's wife, who's having surgery tomorrow. It may be minor, but a lot of times surgeries, you know, that are minor, don't, it's not always minor at the end. So let's remember her. And last, but the billboard ordinance, do we have one already? I thought we had one in place. Jason, I'm looking at you. You can see
So, we do, as part of the sign ordinance, I would need to work with the city attorney on this, as there is case law about content.
Right.
And so I would defer to the city attorney, as we'll need to evaluate this.
Okay. All right, so then can I suggest that we put it on the agenda for next meeting? Is that possible? So we can talk about it legally and openly?
So you would need to take action to have the item on the next agenda. Otherwise, it will be a council member requested item, and then it will
Have to be, yes.
go on the following agenda. So unless you take action, you could take action to add it,
Well,
or it would just go on as a council member requested item, and then it would come on the following one, the first meeting in November.
well, can I make a motion to add it? If no one, you know, if it dies with lack of second, at least I want to request to have it on there.
Yeah, that's how you would get it on the next meeting.
Okay, then I'd like to make a motion, Your Honor, to place on the next agenda if it's possible.
Okay, and I will second it, but I know I don't usually do that, but just to also bring back whatever we do have,
Yes.
because whether it's in this regard or any other future regards to be aware, as I think you suggested that, so just so we can cover it all at the same,
So are you saying for the staff report to
include whatever
include
existing.
so that you can take action?
If Councilmember Stowe would amend his motion to include that.
Sure, I'll amend it.
May I comment?
Please.
since there is already a motion and a second, but I believe it was an item that was brought once before with signage, but not, it didn't, it was going to be brought back at a future meeting.
The comprehensive
Yeah,
signage,
the
sign
con- the-
ordinance.
And signage, so I'm just throwing it out there as a,
Yeah, because
in
I thought
the
we
feather
had,
banner, so.
I thought we had something on, but
I don't think we would be prepared to bring the entire sign ordinance
Okay.
back at the next meeting. That's going to take
no, yeah,
some,
just anything that
effort.
pertains to, we billboard.
but if we
and,
could bring back that specific
Yeah.
issue in
Okay.
terms of
That's what
the
clarification
sexually
I wanted.
explicit.
Okay.
Okay, so then we will need to vote on that, correct? Okay. So we'll go ahead and call for the vote. Passes 5-0.
Thank you, council members, appreciate that.
Councilmember Tate, any other matters?
I don't really have any other matters, but I was raised in this area. I've lived here my whole life, and I'm so happy that we're going to be able to get back to some sort of form of normalcy, and that we're going to be able to have our traditional events that were so. I'm so grateful that I have the memories that I have from when I was a kid. I think the first parade I ever participated in actually was on a float, was during the Centennial Days in 1960. So, and I want our kids and grandchildren and great-grandchildren to be able to experience the same things that I had the opportunity to experience. And just know that we all feel just like you do. We don't want to restrict any of these things. We want to be able to carry things forward and do the best we can, but we also have a responsibility to our community to keep us all safe and healthy. And looking up at the mountains, last night I was standing in my backyard and I saw one star when I looked up above. And I thought, you know what? We're going to be all right. This is going to be okay. And I really am grateful to this council and to our community and to our citizens, because that's the reason we're here. We are advocates for the people who live here. That's our role as city council. So I just want to thank you all. Okay? And I mean everybody. Thank you.
Thanks for those comments. Vice Mayor?
I want to echo sentiments with regard to public safety, the overall public safety. I mean, inclusive fire, police department. And it goes without saying how the quality of life, and there are no words because I see you out there. I see several officers taking care of business, and I see the fire staff all the time leaving. But then I also want to continue the recognition of staff, especially in Parks and Leisure, because they're starting to get busier now. And I can see some of those stresses that surface and arise to that regard. And I mean, it's like, it's probably Mr. Moore's fault why it's not getting done. But without, again, with the administrative staff and each department, when I think about departments, I always think of water. And I always think of Mr. Knight's department to that regard, because in that area, quality of life includes water and the sewer aspect. And in order to maintain the sustainability of that throughout the city, is beyond words. And I know Maria won't come on. She won't let us see her, but she is to be commended for the abilities of all the finances for the city. And you don't ever want to be on her bad side when we're talking finances to that regard. I want to offer condolences to several of the families who have lost a loved one in the last few weeks. There have been several losses, and there are some that are not COVID-related, while there are more COVID-related deaths in that. My heart goes out to each and every family member to that regard. I know that my colleagues on the dais, when we made the decision to go back to the TCEDC, the Tulare County Economic Development, my first meeting will be next month, but I became very proactive as an outcome of that. I reached out to Mr. Ollie last week on Monday, and I spoke to Erica, the person who, the manager, and I asked for the bylaws. I asked for the board handbook, and I asked for all the agendas and the minutes since he's been there so that I could read them and ask the questions. And I just wanted to make note that when I looked at the date of the bylaws, they have been revised as of July of 2020. So I will keep you updated as I start attending these meetings and start reporting out to that regard. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. And I also want to echo my sentiments for families that have lost folks recently, as there are too many to list. But as we continue to take care, and as Councilmember Tate mentioned, trying to do something that reminds us of when times were more normal, we also need to keep in mind that we want it to stay. And hearing the numbers that were presented, the numbers sound favorable, although I do mention and acknowledge those people we have lost. So we have to keep our eyes on progress towards getting back to where we want to be. I do want to also recognize public safety, the firefighters, of course, for all of their efforts here locally, and it's quite obvious that they're in for quite a fight with the smoke and the air quality that we've observed. But not just that, but the police department, I'm sure, is seeing the air quality and all the adversity in the world probably makes people a little more antsy, and there's probably a few more things happening out there than normally. So I'm proud that all of our public safety officials and officers are out there doing a great job. And one thing that I didn't hear once was for a change, the sheriff, I think, wanted us to take our drone out to one of his calls as opposed to us calling him in. So those actions we take, I think, help us stand out as a city and a council that support our public safety, and I think that's very crucial. Also, just as a sneak peek to my Tri-JPA, which is a Tule River Improvement Joint Powers Authority report, I'll do next meeting, but they're dedicating what's left of the water that's in the lake to the firefighting effort. They're unable to use helicopters sometimes, so they're using other small aircraft, but that is something that authority did acknowledge as dedicating that to the fight, fighting the fire. As well, the air quality, I want everybody to be able to know that there are places where you can check the air quality. Although what you see out there isn't always, it's not always as bad as it looks or as good as it looks. So being able to look on the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution District's website, or many other ways to look at the AQI, or whether it's a 1 through 5 air quality system. Be aware of your activities, whether you're outside and doing anything strenuous, because it can exacerbate any health issues or create some. I know that we all worry about chest pains or shortness of breath because of the pandemic, but smoke can also cause that. So be aware that that's something to think about as well. The Air District, and I've heard, and hopefully coming, there will be some grants for what are called clean air centers, similar to a warming center or cooling center. There will be some grants available probably soon, hopefully, for commercial grade air purifiers for businesses or centers that are willing to run them during business hours. I hope to have an update on this next month or at our next meeting, but I will keep the community informed, because I know, as I mentioned to members of the Tribal Council, there's an Elder Center, a Veterans Center, and then any other veterans facilities that are open during business hours would be eligible. And what I've heard is there's also filters and an ongoing for 5 years or so. So these programs are very important, and I think it's the more we become aware of healthy air and are doing something about it, I think the better off we are health-wise. So that's all I have, and I'll turn it over to staff.
I have nothing further to add, but thank you.
How you doing, Fernando?
I have nothing to add.
Okay.
as well for this evening.
Yes.
I am still married. We are loving every moment of it, and hopefully this COVID stuff dies down so we can go on our honeymoon finally.
Okay. We're all pulling for that. And again, we'll thank Fernando and all the staff that's here virtually, and as well as public safety and Parks and Leisure staff that's here as well. And thanks for those in attendance for your input. It's very important for us to be able to deliberate. So thank you. And with that, we are adjourned.